read minds and I've been stalking you. And she's just like, I haven't read the Twilight series since I was a teenager. I think I was 16 or 17 the first time I read this series. I've never read it with like a fully developed frontal lobe. This was of course one of my favorite series growing up. It was something I shared with my older sister. I was not allowed to read these series, but she would sneak me the books when she was done reading them. And so I would like sneakily read these and like hide it under my bed, hoping that my mom wouldn't find them because she would throw them in the garbage. So yeah, it's Halloween season, it's fall. I thought it would be fun to do a reread of this series for the first time as an adult. I do have the entire series here, and I'm gonna try and get through it this week and give my thoughts on that. I thought it would be kind of fun. So come along with me as I reread Twilight for the first time in like 20 years. It's so dramatic. It's literally dramatic from page wise. Surely it was a good way to die, in the place of someone else I loved, noble even. That ought to count for something. All right, Bella. All right. Yeah. I remember why I got so hooked on these books. I am very, very excited about this. This will be similar to when I read The Summer I Turned Pretty, because they're both kind of from similar time frames, but I find that a lot of the language towards other women in The Summer I Turned Pretty is very negative and kind of like slightly misogynistic. And already we're like 4 pages in, and just like the way that Bella describes her own mother is kind of iffy. And like I get it because her mom is very flaky and like that's sort of the point, but I'm curious to see the way that Bella will talk about like her friends and like the other women that are around her. And it'll probably be different when she's talking about like Alice and Rosalie and Esme than it is when she's talking about like the girls from her school. But I'm curious because, you know, back then pick-me girls were kind of the main thing. I grew up in that era, so I know very well what that looks like. And I'm just wondering if that language is going to be very present in this book or not. I generally don't remember because it's been so long since I read it, but it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, Bella kind of is the ultimate pick-me, so I wouldn't be surprised if the way she talks about other women is like abysmal. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see. I'm gonna grab a pen and maybe put my headphones on and just do like a tandem read, because I do have the audiobooks on Libby right now, and I think it'll just get me through it faster. But I'm gonna grab a pen and I'm gonna start marking up this copy of Twilight, since the original copy that I read, I didn't own. And I didn't do annotating back then because I was afraid to write in books, but I'm not anymore because I'm a grown-up. So I'm gonna grab a pen, I'm gonna grab my headphones, and we're gonna put in the work. We're gonna get through this. It's a lot of pages, but I'd like to get like halfway through this tonight. So we'll check back in later. So it's now Monday, and I am still reading Twilight. I've been sort of doing it in tandem, my audiobook, just to make things a little easier so I can listen while I'm doing things. So let's read for a little while. It is 4:30, almost 4:30 on Monday afternoon. Page 80, not too far. This is like what, a 400 page book? 500. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it was that long. So let's keep reading. Also, I want to say I am surprised because I remember Bella being a lot more insufferable in the books. But I think that I'm just like conflating the books with the movie, because movie Bella is so insufferable and so boring and just like thinks she's better than everyone else around her. And book Bella is not quite as she's not quite as nothing as movie Bella. She actually, you know, while not totally living in the same world as her peers, she does engage with him a lot more than I remember. And she's also really good with Charlie, which in the movie, she's so cold towards Charlie that it actually bothers me. But in the book, she's not as cold towards Charlie. And I really appreciate it. I also think the little like vampire puns very early on are kind of funny. There's like a scene with Edward where she's like, it's not like, you know, she's talking to like her new friends or whatever. And she's like, it's not like they're gonna bite me. You know, it's very tongue in cheek. And I appreciate that. It's very like 2000s core, you know, but as a millennial, I appreciate the 2000s core. So let's continue. Edward is so rude to Bella. Like, this is the thing. Back in the day, we wanted a guy who was like kind of cold to us, but like really cold to the rest of the world. But he's like, he negs her so much that I don't know how like we were all like falling all over ourselves for him. Like back in the day, I was like, oh my god, Edward is so hot, he's so beautiful, everything about him is perfect. And now I'm like, he's kind of a jerk. I am on page 156, and this is the first time Bella said something remotely relatable, because she says, they didn't know how preoccupied I could get when surrounded by books. It was something I preferred to do alone. And wow, yeah, I relate to that. I like to do my book shopping alone as well, because when I'm on the book section, I'm zoned in, I'm focused. I need to look at every single book. I need to admire how pretty they are. I need to pick them up. I need to feel them. I need to flip the pages. And usually when I'm with people who like don't get it, they want to like rush me through the bookstore, and I'm like, I need time. I want to do it by myself. So Bella, you got me there. Relatable. So I am just about 100 pages into Twilight. I'm finding it really hilarious because Edward is so like 2000s cringe. There's like 5 pages of him having a conversation with Bella where he's like, I'm such a bad boy. I shouldn't be talking to you, but I'm so bad. I like feel like being bad, and I'm gonna talk to you even though I'm like super bad. And if you were smart, you would know how bad I am for you, but I want to be bad. I want to be your friend because I'm so bad. And it's so cringe and horrible. Bella is honestly a lot less annoying than I remember her being, and so I'm rooting for her at this point. That's probably gonna change. And also the weird thing is how like I get that like they're playing off this like it's a small town, nobody new ever comes to town, and so like that's why like Mike and them are all like they want her so bad. But also, like, there's nothing special about her. There's literally nothing special about her. She's not that pretty. She doesn't have a really good personality. The only person that she's been, like, nice to so far is her own father, and nobody sees that. And yet every guy is like, she is the one. She's the chosen one. She is the beauty queen of Forks, Washington. So that's where we're at. I think for me, the funniest thing is how Edward is so, like, he's been trying to keep this secret that he's a vampire, right? He doesn't want Bella to know. And then the second she asks him a question, he's like, well, I've been reading the minds of everyone you know. And I was reading Jessica's mind, and that's how I know that you walked away from her. And then I was reading the minds of everyone else in town, and I saw your face in that guy's mind, and that's how I knew to come rescue you. My guy, like, what happened to subtlety? And the thing is that she, like, knows he's, like, a little off. And she has, like, her stupid little theories. Like, she's like, you're a superhero. You're, like, Peter Parker. And instead of being like, girl, you're insane, you're imagining things, he's like, well, you got me. You got me. Here's my life story. You got me. And I just find that funny. Because, like, you're telling me 100-something-year-old guy can't, like, just gaslight a girl a little? Just gaslight her. Just a little. Like, he gaslit her for, like, 3 seconds. And then he was like, I can't do it anymore. You've cut through to my soul. And it's like, you've talked 4 times. She didn't cut through to your soul. You're just weak. You're weak-minded. You're a loser. But, you know, it's fun. It's fun. I do think Edward is a little bit of a loser, though. But I like Bella more than I expected to. So, small wins, silver linings, as they say. And yeah, so I'm on chapter 9. I'm 180 pages in. Not bad for a day's work. And I'm going to continue reading tonight and see how that goes. We're now on to Tuesday. It's the next day. 2 days later, I don't remember when I filmed the first part. But I'm about halfway through Twilight. I'm actually having a much better time than I thought I was going to. I honestly really did believe that I was going to be like cringed out the entire time, and I am. Especially the Edward scenes. Edward is so cringy and horrible. Like, you can tell that he's 100 and something years old. However, I'm actually having a really good time. I'm enjoying Bella a lot more than I remember enjoying her. I think the movies kind of tainted my memory of Bella because in the book she's really not that obnoxious. She's a lot less obnoxious in the book. Does she have a lot of personality? No, not tons. And I think that a lot of the books written during that time, especially in YA, were written with very like bland and plain sort of female main characters so that the reader could sort of self-insert. I have that theory about a lot of the books from back then. Like the Shadowhunter series is very similar to that, as well as the Divergent series. However, Bella does have more than I remember. She has more than what Kristen Stewart was giving. And I'm enjoying it so far. I do think that Edward is like just genuinely so ridiculous that it's like hard to get into that space that I was in. Obviously, I'm not a 17-year-old girl anymore, but it's just, he's so over the top with his like, I'm so bad and you shouldn't be into me because I'm like really dangerous. And then he's like pushing her away for months. And then she simply asks one question when they're in Port Angeles, and he just spills his entire heart and soul. He's like, I read minds. And she's like, okay. I read minds and I've been stalking you. And she's just like, yes. Yeah, that's totally fine. That's totally fine and not weird at all. So, you know, it's a book for teenagers. I'm having a good time. We're going to continue reading. I have to actually run to the library today because my books are so overdue that they're trying to make me pay for them. So I'm going to run over to the library. Maybe I'll take you with me. And then I'm going to come back home and do some reading for the rest of the night. Just returned from the library. I thought I'd do the tiniest little book haul from the library. I love to pick up graphic novels from the library because I find them easy to read in between other books. So I picked up these two, Straight On Till Morning and Part of Your World. They are Twisted Tale Disney retellings. This one's obviously Little Mermaid and this one is obviously Peter Pan, and they just sort of take the story and turn it on its head a bit. I've read the Frozen adaptation and I thought it was only okay, but I also have the Beauty and the Beast one, which I haven't read. And then I found the graphic novels of these, so I thought they might be easy to read and just like a good time for like a little slump buster. I have been wanting to read The Favorites for so long. Ever since I heard about an ice dancing romance, I have been wanting to read this. I was one of those people absolutely obsessed with Tessa and Scott, the Canadian ice dancers, and if this gives any of the feelings of watching them perform in the Olympics, I'll be happy. I'm very excited about this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And finally, in my last video, I talked about book series that I want to finish before 2025. So I did pick up Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. I only own the first 2 books in the series. I've read 3 of them. This is the last one. I'm so excited and yet so sad to say goodbye to this series because this is one of the first series I fell in love with when I started reading again back in 2023. Done and Dusted is one of my favorite romance books. I just think it's so well done. It's kind of ruined other cowboy romances for me. I love the world that Lila's created with the Rebel Blue Ranch and all the characters that live within it. I love the Meadowlark family and their extended friends and family. All 3 couples so far have been so much fun and so incredible, and you don't know as much about Dusty and Cam as you do the rest of the cast of characters, so I'm really excited to get to know them and to close out this series in a bittersweet type of way. But then that means I can move on to Lila's new series, which is like a haunted, spooky, like ghost town story. So exciting. That is my library haul. I think I did pretty good today. I'm hoping I actually get to reading all of these, but I have a really big week of reading ahead with my Twilight reread, so we'll see how that goes. I'm also still rereading Divine Rivals so that I can read Ruthless Vows. A lot on the go right now, but we're doing what we're doing. So I'm gonna get back to reading Twilight. I'm 179 pages in, not quite halfway, but I think I can get close to finishing this tonight. I don't know if I will finish it, but I can get kind of close. So let's dive back into reading. So it is now Wednesday. I'm pretty far into this reread. I have come to the point where I am a little bit torn. I originally went into this just wanting this to be like a very fun, silly little like, oh, I'm rereading this as an adult and like here are all the parts that are stupid. And there has been a little bit of that. I am having a good time, but at the same time, I find it hard to read this without having a critical eye. And I am struggling with Edward's behavior towards Bella because, of course, we know that he is not a 17-year-old. He's like a 150-year-old vampire who has lived many different lives and had many different experiences. And while there's something to be said about maybe his maturity level stopped at like a 17-year-old, he has a lot of knowledge. Maybe he doesn't have the wisdom of a 150-year-old, but he has the knowledge of a 150-year-old, and he is 150. And I am struggling to conceptualize that when he speaks to Bella in the way that he does. I've tabbed here a couple of places where he said things to Bella that personally I just find alarming, and I don't really know how to grapple with that as an adult. And let me just find a couple of examples. He very much goes out of his way to other her, make comments towards her as though she's different than other teenagers her own age. And if you are familiar with grooming, I don't know if I can say the word on here, that is something that groomers do to young girls to make them feel special and help justify why they would be attracted to this person. So this is one of their first, like this is only like their third interaction, I think. Bella's just gone to the school nurse because she almost fainted in class because they were doing like a blood sampling exercise, and he's decided to drive her home, and in his car he is listening to classical music and she recognizes it. And he's a little bit surprised that she recognizes it, and they start talking about how she's very different than her mother and how her and Charlie are very similar. He asks how old she is. Now, mind you, he knows that she's a high school student. So regardless of if she's 17 or 18, she's a high school student and he's 150 years old. And she says, I'm 17. And then he says, you don't seem 17. His tone was reproachful. It made me laugh. And then he says, what? And she says, my mom always says I was born 35 years old and that I get more middle-aged every year. I laugh and then sighed. Well, someone has to be the adult. I paused for a second. You don't seem like a junior in high school yourself, I noted. He made a face and changed the subject. It's because he's not, right? He's not. And already at this portion of the book, he later admits that he is thinking of her in a romantic subtext, knowing that she's 17. And then encouraging conversation with her where he says that she's more mature than her age. And that to me is like very dangerous. And there's other times when he says things like this. There's another part right after he rescues her from the men when they're in Port Angeles. She says, I'm not going into shock. And he says, you should be. A normal person would be. You don't even look shaken. Again, very much othering her from her peers. Again, we go on to chapter 9. We're still in Port Angeles. They're on their way home, and he's talking about how he can read other people's minds, and she wonders why he can't read her mind. He says, quote, I don't know, he murmured. The only guess I have is that maybe your mind doesn't work the same way the rest of theirs do. Like your thoughts are on the AM frequency, and I'm only getting the FM frequently. He grinned at me, suddenly amused. Once again is another instance of him othering her from her peers. She's different. She's not like everyone else. And in the mind of a 17-year-old, this makes them very special, but also puts them in a very vulnerable position where she can justify why this age-old vampire might be attracted to her as opposed to other people, because she's not like everyone else. She's different and she's special. And that's such a dangerous position to put a teenager in. There's more like that. Again, here comes the part on page 85 where she asks, quote, how old are you? He says, 17. And she says, how long have you been 17? And his lips twitched at that. Like he's enjoying the fact. He's enjoying this. He says his lips twitched at that as he stared. His lips twitched as he stared at the road. Quote, a while, he admitted at last. A while. Later on, he's talking about how bad he is for her, how he should stay away from her. She says, I don't understand. What makes you still dangerous? He says, sometimes we make mistakes. Me, for example. Allowing myself to be alone with you. This is a mistake, is what Bella asks him, and he says, a very dangerous one. Pardon me, sir? Again, he says, 1 page later, he says, it makes me anxious to be away from you. He doesn't know this girl. He's talked to her like 4 times. And yet he feels this possessiveness over her, as though he owns her, as though he has ownership towards her. It continues again. Don't you see, Bella? It's one thing for me to make myself miserable, but a wholly other thing for you to be so involved. I don't want to hear that you feel that way. It's wrong. It's not safe. I'm dangerous, Bella. Please grasp that. She says no. And specifically says, no, I tried very hard not to look like a sulky child. Because again, she is a child. He says, I'm serious. She says, I already told you, it doesn't matter who you are. It's too late. And then he says, never say that. And again, it's putting this choice, this terrible decision in the hands of a child, where she could say, I wanted this. I wanted to be with him. But she doesn't get to have a say in that because she's a child and he is not. And I am struggling because I know that it's a silly little book about vampires, but also when I'm reading this through the mind of an adult, it's hard for me not to read it critically and not to see those dangerous elements of the book. And I always saw this as a book that I would like share with my daughter when she gets to be, 13, 14, 15. And now I don't know if I want to put this into her hands, reading this through this lens, because if a 150-year-old man ever spoke to my daughter in this way, he wouldn't see the light of day again. And that is hard to come to terms with. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm trying to just have a fun little time with my little vampire book. Again, I have not revisited this book as an adult, and I am just so surprised how alarming some of the conversations that Edward has with Bella are. So let's do a quick little book haul because I just got back from thrifting earlier today. I've slowly been collecting all of the ones on this beautiful secret collection. This is one of the novellas. I have another novella that I got the other day. This is very exciting, but I found Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. And as you know, I have been reading Twilight and I actually didn't have Midnight Sun. So now I have Edward's POV, which honestly sounds like a nightmare, but here we are. I also got Homebody by Rupi Kaur. Anyways, I really like poetry books and I've been trying to build a little collection of poetry books, and I have 2 other poetry books by this author that I've read that I liked. So I got this one. I also picked up The Unhoneymooners by Christina Loren. I have not read a Christina Loren book. I've been collecting a bunch of them, so maybe it's time I finally get to one, but we'll see. This one I picked up because at my thrift store, if you buy 4 books, you get 1 free, and it just sounded really cute. It's called More Than Just a Pretty Face by Saeed Masood, and it says, Danielle Jelani may not be the smartest guy in the room, but he is 1, funny, 2, gorgeous, and 3, going to make a great chef one day. And it looks cute, so I thought that it would be a cute little read for me. I also picked up With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. I've read, I think, 2 other books by Riley Sager. One I didn't enjoy much, the other one I thought was okay, and then now I have this one, and I'm very excited to read this one. I've heard pretty good things about this one compared to some of the other Riley Sager books that I have read. So we're gonna see. I love a good thriller. And lastly is the one that I'm most excited about. It's Mouthful of Birds by Samantha Schweblin, who also wrote Fever Dream. And if you watched video 2 weeks ago, I think, I talked about Samantha Schweblin because I love Fever Dream and it's such a good little novella. It's weird and eerie and creepy and just gross. I don't know. But it was a really good time, and I found this, and it's a collection of, I believe, short stories. So I was like, I think I'm really gonna enjoy this. And this was a really exciting find. I found it in the literature section, which at my thrift store is very tiny. It's literally one little end cap. But I was very excited to find this. So that is my little book haul. I spent about 35 bucks on all this, which in Canada is a very good deal because a single hardcover is usually 40 bucks. So that's what I picked up today. and I am very excited about it. So it is Friday. It's also Halloween. I don't know that I'm gonna finish Twilight tonight. I really wanted to finish it before the end of the week for this vlog, but doesn't look like that's gonna happen, and that's okay. I had fun reading it, and I will do like a full review for it when I finish it. Also started another book called Caught Stealing. My best friend told me I had to read this immediately, so I pretty much dropped everything I was doing and I started reading this. I'm a couple chapters in. I have a feeling it's gonna be a good time, and we're gonna see. It's a little bit they're being bad boys. Well, they're not being bad boys yet, but they're gonna be bad boys, and I'm very excited about that. I also finished one of my graphic novels yesterday, the Part of Your World one. I thought it was cute. I would say it's like 3.5 to 4 star. It wasn't my favorite thing that I've ever read, but it was cute, and it was a good little like retelling or like twisted telling of The Little Mermaid. And that's gonna be it for me for this week. It's gonna be it for me. It's Halloween. I'm getting ready for little baby trick-or-treaters to come. I'm very excited about that. I'm editing and just realized that I never recorded an outro, so that's all I have for you today. If you're watching this today, Tuesday, it's my birthday, so drop a happy birthday in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. I'm trying to post every single week on Tuesdays and Fridays. We'll see if the Tuesdays stick, but I'll definitely be posting Fridays, so stick around for more.